Hey there, welcome back to my channel. My name's Chris, and today we're talking about DAW controllers. Do you need one? How useful are they? Well, today we're going to be using the QCon Pro X from Icon Audio as an example. Now, as usual, please don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell for notifications. I'm starting to build up a really nice database of videos on my channel, so check it out after this and see what other videos might be good for you. Now, I want to preface this whole video by saying that this will not be a comprehensive review. I'm more planning to take you through how I use a unit in my workflow, and maybe along the way you'll pick up some tips for how to integrate something like this in your setup. So in the UK at the moment, you can buy this for around £699 British pounds, which makes this one of the more pricey DAW controllers on the market. And for that, you pretty much get a unit that'll give you 8 controllable channel strips plus a master fader, full transport control with the jog wheel on the right hand side, a whole load of buttons for controlling elements within your DAW. You can buy expander units to expand this thing out to a full 32 channels of instant control, and also you've got a nice big 12 segment LED meter bridge, so at the very least it's going to look cool. Now, the first thing to say about this particular machine is that Icon brought out a firmware update for this about something like 7 to 8 months ago, which requires you to send away for new overlays which would be specific to the DAW of your choice. The overlays are technically free, but you do have to pay for delivery, so they're technically not free. Anyway, I don't know if the models are shipping with this new overlays. Probably not, because there'll be a lot of units out there in the world that don't have these anyway, and I don't know, who knows. Anyway, it does mean that the machine fully integrates with the DAW that you're using in a really simple way. So if you do buy one of these, make sure you send away for the appropriate overlay and update to the latest firmware as well. It'll really work. Now, that moves me on to the practicality of using a DAW controller in the first place. Wasn't that nice? Anyway, look, I genuinely love this QCon Pro X. For starters, it's just fun. I got my start out doing sound in church, working with mixing desks with loads of channels, being able to mute, solo, create groups, send effects and all that fun stuff. So when I get to my computer and open up Logic, I want it to feel like that experience, mixing and having fun rather than mousing around doing admin. So before we go any further, I kind of want to clear up some little misunderstandings that some people think, because having a controller like this, it doesn't mean that you stop needing a mouse or a keyboard. It just means that you've got more tactile control of key elements like faders, rotary pots, mutes, solos, record arm, and automation modes. So let's dive into a project and show off some of the workflows that I actually use this machine for. Now, just to kind of like make sure that you all understand what's happening here, I'm using a stems project that I use for some of the choir work that I do. This is a song called Don't You Worry About a Thing by Stevie Wonder. So unfortunately, due to licensing and copyright and all that fun stuff, I will not be playing the full track, but I think I can get away with just playing like the drums, the stems of the drums, so you get a feel of that kind of like vibe of what I'm talking about. But first off, you can see we've got our 9 faders here, 8 channels, and then a master fader as well that is always the main out, the kind of like master level out. You've got banks of 8 that you can bank across, and you also have the option to individually bank across one channel at a time, which can be really handy. Obviously, you've got individual channel selects, you've got mutes on every channel, solos, record arm, which is really great for obviously checking that a specific channel is armed and ready to record. You just want to hit that button and make sure it's actually flashing. If it's not flashing, it's not actually record armed. So that's something to bear in mind there. You've got your transport control section over here with a nice big jog wheel that I really like. Obviously, zoom sections, you can zoom in vertically and horizontally, and obviously you can zoom out on both things. If that zoom button is not engaged, then this becomes a channel selector, which is also really handy as well if you need that quickly. One little button that I think is mega cool that I don't know, it might be on a lot of other consoles, but I just thought it was a really smart little thing, is this lock button right here. So let's say we've got a really sick, fat mix on the go. We're really chuffed with it, but nature calls. So we need to leave really quickly. And I've got a really awkward cat. I mean, I don't. This is just an imaginary cat, but I'm just telling you. Like, let's imagine I had a really awkward cat who loves to come in and like play with my mix and thinks he can do a better job at mixing than me, which he probably can do, to be fair. But I don't care. I think I'm better than my cat in this moment in time. So I'm just gonna lock the mix, and it just locks all the faders. So it'll literally fight me. And if I even like force a mix down, all 4 faders, it'll just bloop, pop right back into place. Genius little move, so handy, probably saves a lot of e-rake for people who kind of wonder what happened to their mix when they were gone from the keyboard for a minute. Anyway, we've got all these buttons here that you can decide it to do whatever you want it to do if you want to, but the great thing about Mackie Control Protocol means it literally just does what it should do straight away. And if you've got the appropriate overlay, like we talked about to begin with, then these buttons will actually do what they say they do in Logic. So it's really great. Obviously, you've got 8 user assignable function buttons here, and the labels actually do what they say they're saying to do. So if you press the green shift button and then you hit that, it'll open up the arrangement window. I've changed it so that for me, F1 literally brings up my mixer pane. It's just, I like that being there straight away, the first thing it is. Yeah, you've got all that control straight out the bat, which is just brilliant. So I was kind of thinking about like one particular place where this can be really handy is if you're using a DAW to control a live stream mix. So like imagine you're working in a theater or a venue that's sending its gigs to YouTube for live streaming. You're in a separate control room with a laptop receiving 32 channels of audio. And the last thing you want to be doing when mixing live stream audio is using a mouse or a trackpad. So this is just going to be brilliant for that. Now, the next most obvious use for a DAW controller, I think, is in automation land. And I think this is where things get a little scary for some people. So just always save your work before you do anything, so that if it does go horribly wrong, you can just go back before you made any changes at all. All right, so let's have a little show of that first off. Like I said, I've got my sick mix here and I haven't really done anything to it yet. The first thing I want to do is show you how to use these automation modes here. So you've got read, write, trim, touch, latch, and group is for when you're working in groups and things like that. You want to group, select a group of channels and be able to kind of like pull them all down at the same time. So for instance, I want to pull all of these at the same kind of like consistency. That's really fun. That's not what I want to do just now, so I'm just going to unselect all them and unselect the group channel. But we are going to put these into write mode. Now, if you use the option button here and then hit write, it'll put every single channel in your project into write automation mode. And because I've done this before, it's not popped up a little window, but the very first time you do this, it might pop up a little window that says, are you sure you're gonna do this? And it's kind of Logic saying, just make sure you understand what it is you're about to do. This is kind of like putting the gauntlet on in Avengers and being able to do this. I'm joking, it's not that bad, but it is kind of a situation where you need to understand your different automation modes, okay? So make sure you're aware that write mode will literally erase all automation that you do before you even do it, okay, as you're doing it. So that's just something to be aware of. I'm kind of very happy that I'm wanting to do that just now. So the first thing I want to do is I'm going to just completely flatten out this mix right back to infinity, and we're just going to hit play. And the first thing, I want some cowbell in this mix. So we've got some cowbell on the go. Let's bring in some shaker and some claps. Get the claps? Yeah, sick. And then at this point, I think let's just bring in everything else. We'll get the breakdown coming up in a little second. It's a really fun bit. 3, 4. Yeah, now we're cooking with gas. Okay, so we're just gonna pull it back a little bit. There's gonna be a little build up in a second. Build it up. Yeah. And then we're going to drop everything out apart from cowbell. I love that cowbell. It was so much fun. Anyway, so you get the idea. That's our mix there. Now, one thing you'll see in Logic, it's immediately, as soon as I've hit stop, it's moved us over into touch mode, which is a really fun mode because it basically means that you can go back and all your changes will be there. And if you're playing along and you decide actually that cowbell was just a little bit too much of it in that moment, okay? So what happened is I touched it to be able to make a change, but as soon as I removed my finger from the motorized fader, it flicked back to the original kind of automation position that was there before. And you cannot do that if you're mixing on a mouse. Like you can't. It's just too awkward and too difficult. The great thing about having a DAW controller like this allows you to have that capacitive touch on the motorized fader, which it's just physically impossible. So that's a big selling point. Anyway, make sure that if you just want to listen back to your mix and the automation that you've made, you flick it back into read mode, and then you can listen to that automation in action. Cowbell. Shaky shaker. We got the claps? Yeah, full mix is gonna come in 3, 2, 1, up. Yeah, there we go. So yeah, anyway, I sometimes like to pretend I'm a magic wizard who's like telling the faders to do things at the same time. Anyone else? No? Okay. So anyway, that was a nice wee demo of how to use a controller in a really simple but effective way. Now, another thing I see people always talking about in review videos is that, oh, you could use this to control your plugins as well. Now, I mean, yeah, technically you can, but I honestly don't think you'd ever want to. DAW controllers are for real-time changes mostly, in my opinion. Fanning around with plugins and stuff takes time and nitty-gritty and bits and bobs. So if you're looking for a controller for that kind of stuff, there are other options you can use to get the job done. And maybe we'll have a chat about that in another video sometime. But for now, I'm going to wrap this up here just by saying that there will never be one controller to rule them all in a studio setting. You're always going to need different bits of kit to get certain jobs done. For example, I prefer using my Stream Deck to be able to add new tracks, add in markers, and generally for key commands so that I don't have to memorize those on my actual typing keyboard. It also means that that typing keyboard gets to live over by the MIDI keyboard for when I'm recording keys parts. So yeah, that's it. I think the Icon QCon Pro X is a great tool for those kind of people who like the feel of a fader under their fingers. And it also just looks great in a studio setting. And as much as we don't like to admit, if you're bringing a client into your studio and they see a nice big mixing console looking thing, they will be more impressed straight away. It's kind of just the world we live in. Anyway, if you like this video, then please hit that like button. Tell me your thoughts on DAW controllers, and in particular this guy, the QCon Pro X. I'll have a link in the description to buy this if you want. It does help me out, but it doesn't cost you any more. And before we go, I just want to say a huge thank you to the people at Icon Audio, because they did send me this over on loan. But I've had it for over a year now. They've been very kind and let me keep it for that long. I've mixed quite a lot of projects on it already and had a lot of fun with it. And if I'm being honest, I'm gonna be really sad to say goodbye to this thing. So I might even have to send them a little begging email and see if there's a way that maybe I can keep it forever. Anyway, thank you so much, guys. We'll see you in the next video. Take care.